Once again, welcome back, students. Uh, Good morning, everyone. Hope you are enjoying your vacation. Now, today we are going to talk about producer, consumers, and decomposers of an ecosystem. So, see, the classification is based on what you eat. It's not like how you eat. Okay. So every living organism is in some way dependent on other living organism. You know that plants are food for the herbivorous animals, which are in turn food for the carnivorous animals. Thus, there are different tropical levels in the ecosystem. So some organisms like fungi live only on the dead material and inorganic materials. So let's see what are producers, consumers, and decomposers, and how do we classify them. See, an organism is, that any independent living thing on the earth. It can be as small as a single bacteria or as large as a whale. Okay, I have just taken some of the images from internet. So we classify on the basis of the food chain the organism in three different types. One is called the producers, the second one is called the consumers, and the third one is called the decomposers. And they are all dependent on each other. So what actually are the producers? Who are the producers? Plants are the producers in the ecosystem, as they manufacture their own food by using the energy of the sun. In the forest, these form a communities of the plant life, and in the sea, these include tiny algal form to large seaweed. Okay, so they make their food using the process called photosynthesis. You are quite well aware about the term photosynthesis. Some of the snaps that is available via net. Next comes the consumers. So what are the consumers? Of course, consumers are those either animal or human. They are not plant because they can't generate their own food. They eat their food to get energy from the other sources. They can't develop their own food. This consumers may are classified into four different types: carnivores, herbivores, omnivores, and scavengers. And as I said earlier, it is still all about what you eat. Now, carnivores are those animals which only survive on meat. Okay, you can say uh, you when we talk about food chain, I will talk more about it, about the levels, about the primary and secondary consumers. At a high tropical level, and other things. Then comes the herbivores, which only eat plants. They survive on the plants. Some of the example of herbivores. Then comes the omnivores. Omnivores are those animals which eat both meat and plant. Yeah, a human being is an omnivore. And the last type is the scavenger. It has not been shown in the book, but scavengers are those who feeds on the bodies of dead animals or the waste. Now see, one of the best example of scavenger is the cockroaches, as available from internet. They have survived about 300 million years, and they are one of the most successful and well adapted scavenger of all the time. The cockroaches scavenged the dinosaurs left over long before they survived on the crumbs and the kitchen scraps to human. Dead skin, fingernails are a real treat for them, and leftover food is a delicacy. If these are not available, they can survive on unlikely food sources such as shoe polish, paint, and shoes. So, as a review check, you can ask to your partner to the person next to you or anyone from the class, your colleague. Explain them the meaning of each word, what the carnivore mean, what a herbivore mean, what is omnivore, and who is a scavenger, and give two example of each. Now we talk about the decomposers. Now decomposers eat dead things and turn them back into dirt or soil. See, scavenger and decomposers are different. How they are different? Both survive on the dead things, but one thing turn them back to dirt and soil, while other thing not. Some of the examples of decomposers are mushroom, worms, and bugs. Uh, some of the images are good images. So, what would the world look like without a decomposer? Have you ever thought about it? See, if the world there are no decomposers available on the earth, how the earth or how the world will be looking in which we are living, we will be looking at. You can mail me the answer. Of course, if you have gone through the lecture, you can. Now, the most important thing that how they are related. So, see, this is one of the classic example of the food chain. Okay. Now, let's talk about the step by step of each of this one. So, plants are the producers in the ecosystem since they manufacture their own food by using the energy from the sun. Now, in the forest, this form uh, again form say a group of plants and they survive. In water, there's algae. Then comes the herbivorous animals, which are considered as the primary consumers, as they live on the producers. In a forest, you know there are insects, amoeba, reptiles, birds, and mammals. These herbivorous animals include like hare, means rabbit, deer, elephants that live on plant. They graze on the grass or feed on the foliage of the tree. In grassland, there are herbivores such as blackbuck that feed on the grass. In semi-arid, there are species such as chinkara. In sea, we have some of the species such as small fish that live on algae and other plants. Then comes the higher tropical level, which are called as the carnivorous animals, the secondary consumer, which live on herbivorous animals. You can say in our forest, the carnivorous animals are like tiger, leopards, jackal, foxes, wildcats. In sea, the carnivorous fish lives on other fish and marine animals. I don't think I'm required to give an example of some, but for example, whale is a carnivore. Then comes the decomposers. Now, decomposers or detritivores are a group of organisms, as I've already explained, that consist of small animals like worms, insects, bacteria, and fungi, which break down the dead organic material into smaller particles and finally into simpler substance that are used by plants as a nutrition. Now, decomposition has one of the most important functions in the nature, as without this, all nutrients would be tied up in dead matter and no life could have to be produced. See, most of the ecosystem are highly complex and consist of extremely large number of individuals of a wide variety of species. And in this species, rich tropical ecosystem, such as in our country, only a few species are very common. Most of the species have relatively few individuals. Some species of plants and animals are extremely rare and may occur only at a few locations. You know about the endemic species. This one of the next images I am showing you is consisting of a producer. It consists of a consumer also, a decomposer, and a scavenger. Can you find it? I can easily find a producer. What about the decomposer? Can you see any decomposer on the or a scavenger? Let's check the image. Try to find out the odd one out. So, once again, a simple small example, a small review. Ask your colleague and give two examples to each of the producer, consumers, and decomposers. Explain them the meaning a producer, consumer, and decomposer, and just two examples of each, different one. Also, a small exercise: can you describe the following animals and classify them in producer, consumers, and decomposers? And in case of consumer, you have to include as if they are carnivore, herbivore, or omnivore. Sometimes you can also include scavengers also. Do use a complete sentence. For example, a beer is a. I am not going to say the answer. So here I am going to complete this session. In the next session, we will talk about the energy flow in the ecosystem. Thank you for your time.